Bore da, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion on women in leadership and scaling up business in Wales. Just to let you all know before we start that this event is recorded, and also please feel free to contribute or ask any questions in the chat, which we'll try our best to ask in the Q&A session at the end. So diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. Thought it's going to be a really interesting conversation with these great panelists who I will shortly ask to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about their backgrounds. But for those who don't know me, my name is Catherine and I'm one of the co-founders of Crust. We're based in Cardigan and we started back in 2018 with our cafe in Cardigan and around 11 people on our team. We now have 2 cafes, a production unit and a bakery all under our belt, and I've grown the team to 50 people. I also sit on the CMI Cymru Wales board as the diversity and inclusion lead. And this is something I'm very passionate about, and I want to try and make a real difference to leaders and managers' mindsets on how to create diverse, but most importantly, inclusive workplaces across Wales. So today we're going to talk about 3 main subjects. So number 1, I want to talk about the challenges that businesses in Wales face when scaling up. 2, the experiences of being a woman in a leadership role. And 3, incorporating diversity and inclusion into the workplace. So before we get started, I thought we could have the panelists here introduce themselves and just give a little bit about their backgrounds, who they are and what they do. So I'll just go around what I've got on the screen here. So if Lisa, if you want to start.
Bore da. So I'm Lisa Stouffer. I'm currently the Managing Director of West Wales Holiday Cottages, which is an independent self-catering agency based in Aberporth, which is a small village just outside Cardigan in West Wales, beautiful part of the world. My journey is very different. My background is in the fashion industry. So I graduated with a fashion marketing and design degree, and off I went to London. Back in the day, as they say, and I've worked for many brands. I worked for Etam, Tammy Girl, Reebok, Timberland, and my final role was as a retail director and creative services director at Calvin Klein Underwear. I spent 12 years at Calvin Klein in that role, and then I decided that, well, we wanted to start a family, and what best place to come back to was Wales to raise my family. So that's how I've ended up back in Wales, and I had some great transferable skills that I could bring in to my now role at West Wales Holiday Cottages. So that's a little bit about myself.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Lisa. Sarah?
Hi, yes, thanks for having me here today. My name is Sarah Day and I'm Chief Exec of Practice Solutions. My background is probably very diverse to everybody who's here on the screen. I have worked for Practice Solutions since 2003, and prior to that, my degree was in performance art, and then I did a master's in multimedia. And then actually Practice Solutions is an organisation that works primarily in the health and social care sector. We're a consultancy organisation primarily, and what is really important to us is that we are able to work with organisations and individuals who either work or receive care and support services to improve outcomes for really vulnerable people in our communities. So I guess for me, my career has been based around the opportunities that have been given to me through my work with Practice Solutions. So, you know, I like to get involved in creative work, which harkens back to my degree program. But now a lot of my work involves working with leaders in social care and how to support them to tactically ensure that we create the right conditions to support improvement within that sector.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. And Bev?
Good morning. My name is Bev Downs, and I am currently Marketing and Communications Director at the Development Bank of Wales and also Vice Chair at the WJEC and Educas Limited. My background, interesting. I've worked in a lot of different industries and done a lot of different things. I've variously worked in the pub trade. I've worked in careers guidance. I've been an IT leader. and most recently marketing communications and estates management and as a non-executive. So I think my career journey has been very opportunistic. I've definitely grabbed opportunities as they've come along. But finally, at the grand old age of 47, I finally feel that I'm in a job that suits me. I finally feel like a square peg in a square hole, which is great.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for the introductions. I think we'll just go straight in with some of the first questions that we have then. So, scaling up business in Wales, what challenges have you faced when scaling up your business? So, if we want to start maybe with Lisa on this one.
For me, scaling up the particular business I'm in now, West Wales Holiday Cottages, it was a family-run business up until during the pandemic. We became a limited company. So the challenge for me is to come in and kind of try and understand what the culture was as a family business, because I've never worked for a family business before. I've worked for big, huge brands and corporations. So that was the challenge for me, and understanding everybody's skill set within the business and how we could develop that skill set for future-proofing the business and taking them further. So that's been my biggest challenge, is understanding the culture and not changing that culture, because that's what is our USP, is that we're a family-run business, we're local, even though our end consumer isn't necessarily local because they come here for their holiday, but we want to be part of the community as well. And then upskilling and making sure that we get the right training for the staff to upskill and whether they want to do that, because when you've come into a family business, some people don't want to change at all and they don't want to move any further. So but complementing that then with bringing people in to support that team and making it a stronger team, because I think for me it's all about the team. I've only got 10 people at the moment and we're growing, we're currently recruiting, but making sure that I'm hanging on to the right skills and the right skills are in the business.
Yeah, definitely. Does Sarah, Bev, do you kind of have the similar kind of, so for me with the team and everything and upskilling and training, that's been something that's major within Crust and the development of the business there. So I'm thinking it's a bit of a common theme in businesses, and I was just wondering if maybe Sarah, if you've kind of experienced the same.
I think, like Lisa, our business was a family-run business.
Yeah.
So and also the challenges of growth. When Practice Solutions was set up, it was set up by my dad to support his pension. So it was a lifestyle business. It wasn't something that had to, if it failed or it started on the Monday, failed on the Friday, it didn't matter. So, and as we developed and we became more successful, organizations would come to us and say, they would just, it started with my dad, my sister and my mum were in the background, in the wings. Then I think my neighbor came on board, then the cousin, and it was very organic. And so it was probably about 10 years into the business when you become more successful. People say to you, can you do this for us? And we're like, well, I can't do that, but I know somebody who can. So then it's all based on people's networks. And then you reach a certain size, which I think we did probably around 2012, 2013, where actually we had to start to not employ people because we knew of their skill. We had to employ people based on what was right for our business. And I think we were really fortunate that we hit on some really great people that are still in our team now. But there is a significant cultural shift between a lifestyle business, a business for growth, and then, as Lisa says, making sure that you've got the right skills in your team to ensure the sustainability and success of your own business, rather than trying to find people who can go and work for you in other businesses, if that makes sense.
It does. And Bev, have you kind of felt similar challenges within your career?
Yeah, interesting. So I guess I've got sort of two perspectives on this. So one is as Development Bank of Wales, or Finance Wales as we were back in the day. So when I joined that company, we were 30 people. working out of practically an attic really in the centre of Cardiff, and now we're 265 people, I think, spread all through Wales and across the north of England, delivering really significant contracts. So I've definitely seen what it is to have a business go through those growth phases, and they do feel like really, because although I've been in the business a long time, I feel like I've worked for maybe 5 or 6 actually different businesses, because the company has felt quite different through each of those phases, and I think that that mix of skills and abilities is absolutely relevant. And I guess the other perspective that I would have on it is, we work with 3,500 SMEs across all of those areas. So, and everything from small lifestyle businesses where maybe somebody started up at a kitchen table through to, a big medical technology business that is dealing with new devices to treat cancer, for example. So, we do deal with the whole range of businesses. And I guess one of the challenges that we see is businesses that the difference between a business that is growing organically and is taking advantage of opportunities and a business that is on a growth plan and a growth path. So the way businesses behave in those two different scenarios are really quite different. And I think, just reflecting on what Sarah's saying, the difference between we're growing organically, we're taking advantage of opportunities as they come along, versus we are deliberately targeting growth and we have a plan and we know where we're going. And the way small businesses tend to behave is quite different in those circumstances, and things that you have to think about. And I think that mix of skills and abilities is really pertinent to a discussion about leadership, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about leadership, so with our business now, with Crust, what we have found quite challenging is creating a management structure and kind of helping people develop their skills into becoming leaders and things like that. So we're within the kind of food and drink industry, so we have bakers, chefs, waiters and waitresses, and it's been a difficult transition because we've grown quite quickly over the past few years. We only started in 2018 and we've grown this much since then, to kind of help people develop their skills into becoming management and leaders within the business, which is kind of really important for our growth, to be able to have these people to help us manage our different teams. So I guess my next question is, do you feel that learning to lead and manage should be a core part of a business growth?
I'll take that. I think 100%. I've seen in many of my different places that I've worked, people being promoted to a manager in title, not being given the skills to be able to manage a team, and it going really, not in the right direction for the team or for the person who's been promoted, and it's kind of setting people up to fail, which is not what we want. And it's all very well and good having manager in title, but what does it mean to you as an individual business and as an individual? Because some people take that, I'm a manager, so that means I'm looking after people, but sometimes that's not what you want in a manager. It's actually to manage the whole thing. It's really, really key. That was something that I was kind of like, I've often seen that, really no training, no support, and then it's set up to fail. So that's.
And I think definitely in a small business, what we tend to see is that a founder will start a business and they're responsible for everything, right? You go into, to take your example, Catherine, a food business, because somebody loves to bake and they love to create food, and then all of a sudden you find yourself running a business, not doing the thing that has attracted you into that particular industry in the first place. So it's quite a mental shift, I think, as a small business when you're growing, to put down the tools and to trust the team that's around you and to trust them to actually delegate those decisions. Because actually, as a leader of a growing business, you cannot possibly make all of the decisions. You cannot possibly be across everything. That's how people burn out, isn't it? It's too much. So having that trusted team with the right mix of skills and abilities, and to your point, Lisa, delegating that management ability, so you're trusting them to make good decisions.
I think also what's really important is that sometimes what happens when you're in a small business, as you say, Bev, it's like people think that they can do everything. And it's really important to be able to recognise everybody's different skill sets and see value in all of those things. So, within my organisation, I know we have those creative entrepreneurial thinkers, and I know that we've got those people who are process, task and finish people, which sometimes creates a kind of like, it's almost like a cheese grater a little bit, depending on which side of the fence that you're on, and it creates difficulty sometimes. But I think what's important is when you're in a business that is growing, you have to acknowledge and recognize everybody's contribution in doing that, in making that growth successful. I would say to you that, I remember a time, I think I know I'm an entrepreneurial thinker. I've got lots of ideas. Can I necessarily put all of those ideas into place? No, because I need somebody to come in and operationalize those ideas. And as a business owner, it's having that mindset to recognize, because I think sometimes leaders struggle with this, especially within small organizations, to think that I trust that person enough, or no, I don't have that within my skill set to be able to do that, and let them lead as well. But I think, going back to your original point, absolutely, leadership and learning how to lead and manage is a skill in itself. And that there could be some lucky leaders out there, but I know in my journey to become a leader, there have been programs that I've gone on, like the 2020 program run by Cardiff Met, the Ion Leadership program, that have been really important as part of my skills development. But again, I think it's about personal mindset, and there will be within that small business sector people who just don't know about those opportunities. If you don't know about them, you just crack on and continue. But it's really important to build in time for that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I also think it's time. In a small business, you often get embroiled in the day-to-day all of the time, and you just think that it's not important to go on a training program, whatever position you're in. And I think that's, as a leader, you need to recognize, no, actually we need to send the team on a training course, or find the right trainings for them. And not everything out there is always the right training either. It's finding that right training program for the right person. So that's really important.
Can I just come in there, Catherine?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think also for small businesses, it's that challenge of going, how do we afford to train our staff? So then it's about thinking creatively about how you create that culture of learning within an organization. So, people can see and take on different opportunities to reflect on their own personal development. But I do think that is an issue for small businesses about how much, how big should your training budget be? What defines a good training budget?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think a challenge for me, and maybe you might feel the same, Lisa, is being in a rural area. You don't have like a huge choice of people. Like if you advertise for a job, you might not even get an application, like literally zero. And then for the people that apply, you need them. So you kind of have to get them on board. And then it's up to you to do the training and invest the time in them. And then if you can kind of see potential in someone that you think could work their way up the ladder and become a manager or a leader of the team, it is about finding the right training. And so, for example, I put a couple of our managers on a course last year, and it was really good in terms of kind of the terminology and the mindset of a leader and things like that. But it was very much based around more of an office environment, and coming from the hospitality industry, it was quite difficult to take what was the contents of the course and applying it to kind of hospitality or running a bakery or running a front of house team. So I do feel like there is a kind of challenge there in finding the right balance with the training side of things as well.
I mean, getting back to your point about being in a rural area, yeah, the lack of skills is sometimes it's frustrating because, but it's at the moment we've got a recruitment drive on. And as you say, very little applications at the moment. So who we're getting in to apply, we're trying to see whether they have a skill that we can adapt to the business and put them on a course, or give them a mentor within the business, however that works for us. But it is an issue. It very much is an issue.
It is.
Yeah.
So kind of going off on that then, what advice would you give to somebody looking to kind of grow or scale up their business in Wales? What piece of advice if I can go around the room?
I mean,
interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
one
hard,
thing,
isn't it?
Yeah, one thing for me is, I don't know, don't be afraid to outsource some things. If you haven't got it in-house, don't be scared to outsource. And we are very much like to keep everything local.
Yeah.
So we outsource locally, but don't be afraid if we haven't got the skills internally and we're not able to fill that role. Don't be scared to outsource that.
That's a good one.
Thing. That's one thing I would say.
Yeah.
I think I would say don't think you have to do everything on your own. So I guess it goes back to Lisa's, it's look around you as to who can support you with that. And your team will be fundamental in making that happen. And whether that's part of a core team or, external influences such as mentors, external contractors, but, rarely do we together we can achieve more. So I think that mindset is critical.
Yeah.
I think for me, probably if for businesses that are wanting to grow, I would say having a plan is probably a good place to start, to really understand which parts of your business are you going to grow, which markets are you going to target, and then take a really good look at the management team that you have in the business and the mix of skills, and make sure you have your bases covered. So are you, as the business owner, the right person to do that leadership role? And I think that is, that bit of self-reflection is really important. Do you have a good financial brain, whether that is in the team or whether that is your outsourced accountant? There are plenty of brilliant outsourced accountants in Wales.
Yeah.
Do you have somebody who is good with people? If you're growing the business, you're taking more people on, that comes with more HR challenges, and that is just part and parcel of that mix. And again, is that something that you need to resource in-house, or do you have somebody on the end of a phone that you can call up when you have a particular issue? But a key part of any growth strategy is going to be sales at the end of the day. So do you have a really good salesperson who understands that mix? So is your website right? Is your SEO right? Do you need to look at digital advertising, or are you looking at more building a local market and how you attract customers, footfall in, for example, and how you plug into local industries? So I think definitely having a plan, understanding where you're going, and creating the right mix of skills in the team. And the other thing I would probably say is, as a business leader, make sure that your management team does have a bit of time out. So formal training, absolutely important. Of course it is, make it, particularly if you're looking to plug gaps. So you might have recruited within a fairly restricted market, and you may be looking to build some technical skills, and this is something that we definitely face, and I always kind of say recruit for attitude rather than hard skills all the time necessarily, particularly in a small business. But having that time out, so training is important, but what I hear all the time when I arrange training for my team is that the time out of the office and spending time together, or time out of the workplace, is every bit as important as the actual hard skills that the team are learning. So just taking that time out to reflect, are we still on track? Are we heading in the right direction? Is this something we need to do more of, less of? Period, not every week, but sort of maybe a couple of times a year is also really key, just that bit of headspace to stop and think.
I think that is really important, especially for businesses like ours, which is a consultancy business. We employ 12 people, and then we've got a network of around 50 associates who work with us. So our priority day in, day out is about delivering on contracts, and you need to be really kind of strict with yourselves to pull back, take time out, to actually work on your business as opposed to working on everybody else's business, you know. So that is really important, Bev.
Definitely. Brilliant. Okay, well, I think I'm going to move on to the kind of second theme that I wanted to discuss today, which is kind of women in leadership. And I wanted to ask if, you know, you've all had an array of backgrounds and different things, and if any of you have kind of faced any challenges being a woman in a leadership role. So I'm just interested to know, because I'm quite early on in my career, and I haven't really kind of faced anything like that yet. And I'm just interested to know if you've got any stories or anything that you feel like that you've faced, you know, being a challenge because you're a woman in a leadership role, basically.
I think one of the big things that I've worked on over the last 5 years or so, I suppose, is really finding my voice in a senior role. So as somebody, you know, I've grown up really in the development bank. I literally started out in a job answering the telephones and worked my way up through a variety of roles. And, you know, I know we hear a lot about imposter syndrome, don't we? And that's sort of what a lot of people talk about, and that I think definitely that is something that started out as being an experience that women were talking about a lot. But I hear a lot of men talking about imposter syndrome as well, interestingly. But definitely finding my voice. And I think one of the things, participating in a senior leadership team within a growing business and what has now become a large business, is I am not only there to talk about my topic. I'm not only there with, you know, the IT stick or the communication stick. I'm actually there to participate as a leader for the business as a whole. So giving myself permission, is that the right word? Pushing myself really to speak up on a variety of issues and topics, and becoming a whole of business leader, and accepting that sort of responsibility for the whole business and not just for my little bit of it. And I think for people who have grown up in a business or have been in a particular role within a business, I think that can sometimes be a challenge.
Yeah.
I think I've been quite lucky in my career. It's like you, Kasia, I've been lucky in my career that when in the fashion industry is a mix of men, women, everything. But in my large role at Calvin Klein, the senior leadership team were all women at Calvin Klein Underwear, which is really interesting. CEO was a man, but the senior leadership team were all women. So that brings its own challenges, of course, especially in that industry, because it's very dog eat dog at times. But I think I've been very lucky, and that's, you know, very strong women, and I was surrounded by strong women growing up, and I've been lucky. But I was also lucky at the beginning of my career to have. I worked for a very big sports brand very, very early on, and it was a very male-dominated culture. That was my first intro into the world of fashion stroke business, and that was kind of a bit of a culture shock. And then it was run by a very, very strong woman, female CEO, and that, for me, that set my career path up, because I had somebody to look up to very early on in my career. So I've kind of been like, you know, not too scared to challenge the norm. But again, I think I've been quite lucky in that respect.
Yeah. I guess the same as you, Lisa. I've got quite strong women characters in both my personal life and my work life. So I have never been afraid to kind of speak up or use my voice, and I've always been encouraged to. And I think, again, I've been very lucky, and in the era we live in now, I feel like I'm very lucky at the age that I am, that I do have the opportunity to progress like I do. So do you have any thoughts on that, Sarah?
Only to say that I think that, yes, I agree. I've been really lucky in my career as well. The only challenge is myself, because I know, and I can even hear myself saying it now. When I'm in a meeting, I might go, oh, my naive viewpoint or my outsider viewpoint on this is that. And I'm like thinking, hang on a second, Sarah, you've been in the world of work in this industry for the last 20 years. Why are you still saying that you're naive? Or so it is down to us as individuals to kind of own our own success and know that we are enough And I would say at 44, you know, probably when I turned 40, it was like when you know, I've got 3 children, and you try and that's another challenge of being a parent, being a business owner. Nothing quite ever stops, and then within the pandemic, all of that becomes very intermingled, and merges together. And I do reflect on my time and think, I wonder when I'm 65, will I regret that I wasn't always around at school pickup? I don't think I will. That's, you know, because I've managed the best of both worlds. But fundamentally, it always stops with me, and I would say I'm my biggest challenge.
Well, we've got a live question that's come in, and the question is, what is the single piece of advice would you give to a female leader to scale up their personal brand in a male-dominated role? So does anyone want to take on an answer for that?
Know your worth and be there and as authentic as everybody else in the room. And you know, I think it's really important, and probably brand is really important. It's really important as a leader to have a persona, because, and that I guess is the same as your brand, and have every confidence in your brand that if you're speaking from a value base where you're only, you know, what you believe is for the best intentions of everybody. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you know, I did work in IT for a little while, which is fairly male dominated, and I work in financial services, which is also similarly fairly male dominated. I mean, I think in terms of personal brand, there's a couple of things. I think one thing is, if confidence is an issue and being heard is an issue, then I would definitely look to get maybe a mentor or a coach. I've been through both. I personally found mentoring more useful than coaching, and I found somebody through networks, a woman called Alison Thorne, who runs Women on Boards, actually, who similarly got a really strong history at board level in some fairly big fashion retailers, and she has been absolutely amazing in terms of helping me to build my personal brand, to understand the things that are important to me and to really act on them. And I think in terms of building brand, I think the sector or the role is probably less important than really your own values. So that is probably what I would look to understand, is your own values, your own ethics, and how you want to behave as a leader, and try and be true to that as far as possible. And I think that gives you a really good, you know, I've built a career on managing functions that I'm not an expert in, but I think I'm quite clear in terms of how I see support functions, because that's where I work generally, contributing to a business overall, and how I want those roles and those functions to be respected at the senior level. And that's what I see as being my role. So I think it's being quite clear in terms of what your role is and the difference you can make, and that really helps, I think, to underpin your behaviours then when you're engaging at a senior level.
And I would definitely agree with Bev there in terms of mentoring and a coach. I found mentoring much better for me, and understanding yourself and understanding where the areas you need support on is really key and vital. And I think coaching didn't work for me, but definitely having a mentor throughout my career definitely does.
I think it's also about being prepared to put yourself out there, and being prepared and brave enough to ask for feedback to help you develop it, because it's difficult for us to analyze how we operate in different situations. We can't see ourselves. So it is about, I guess, building a tribe of trusted people, whether that, you know, is a coach, is a mentor, colleague, you know, and it's about being able to have those honest conversations. I remember somebody also, a fellow leader and mentor, talking to me about sometimes you have to wrap yourself up in cling film and just go with it, and take what you can from those opportunities.
Definitely. So quickly then, how did you find your mentor? So if someone was out there looking for a mentor, how would you suggest they kind of find one?
Yeah, it's a good question. I kind of, honestly, I made it known amongst my network that I was looking for somebody, and then someone introduced me to Alison, actually, at I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chwarae Teg, the gender equality charity in Wales, and I was actually at the Women Inspire event, and I met Alison at the after party, and I think the thing with finding a mentor is it has to be somebody that you respect, first of all, whose views you respect. It's got to be somebody who's going to challenge you, because I needed somebody who was really going to push me and to hold me to account, but do it in a supportive way. So previously I'd been linked up with somebody who was a business psychologist, and they were quite challenging is probably the word, and I found that didn't quite work for me. So it's definitely about fit, but what I did was genuinely made it known amongst my network that I was looking for somebody, and my network found someone. But there are networks like the Women's Equality Network, WEN, Chwarae Teg, who run mentoring programs and will have people on their book. So I think is trying to understand what are the issues that you're looking to tackle and deal with. What level of seniority are you looking for? Are there any particular sectors that you're looking within, and making it known.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the third topic now. So I want to talk a bit about equality, diversity and inclusion. And my first question is, have you ever experienced leaders failing to integrate equality, diversity and inclusion into an organisation that you've worked for? And has this, or how did it affect team dynamics? Or maybe you haven't. No?
No.
I haven't.
No.
Or you have, Bev?
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, really?
Early in my career. So I was told quite early on. I was managing a team of people, mix of ages, genders, ethnicities, and I was consistently undermined by my manager, who told me that he needed an older man to come in and take over my job. And this is a long time ago. Things have moved on a lot since, and I would hope we'll move on again in the future. And that completely undermined my confidence as a manager. It undermined my ability to lead and manage that team. So I think our role as leaders is probably to just be alive to our own unconscious biases and make sure that we're not challenge ourselves, really, to not let that influence the way we make decisions, particularly about leadership development and talent within our own teams, and how our own, and they are unconscious biases. We all have them. That's not, it's not a criticism of anybody, but recognizing our own unconscious biases is probably a really good first step to counter that behavior in ourselves and within our teams.
Yeah, definitely. And like we were saying earlier, I think times have shifted anyway. I don't think that's happens as often as it used to, but I do still think it is kind of a problem. And that kind of leads me on to the question of kind of what have you done within your organisation to adopt a culture centred around equality, diversity and inclusion? So kind of what advice would you give to people out there that want to adopt a culture kind of centred around that within the business?
For us in our organisation, our organisation wouldn't exist were it not for people. And so for our organisation, we always have our door open to whomever or whoever wishes to explore opportunities for working with us. So it's about having that open growth mindset about actually, me as a leader. I couldn't tell you what the perfect organisation looked like. I couldn't even begin to answer that, but I have a mindset where I would be open to to any opportunity to support diversity within our workplace. Do I think we've got that perfect workplace, or that perfect balance of diversity? No, I don't think. We are always learning and always seeking to improve on that.
Yeah. And like you said, I think it does all start with a mindset. And if the leaders and the managers have that right mindset, I think that's kind of a really good starting point for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with Sarah there. And also the open door policy, absolutely. And listening to your team as well about what they want, about what kind of workplace they want, you know, and like you say, Sarah, do we have the perfect work? Absolutely not. But we listen to the team about who they want to join, whatever ideas they have. It's a very much an open door. You know, getting your team around the table once a week for me is absolutely critical. And listening.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the first steps for me is probably recognising the commercial benefits of having a diverse team. You know, this is ultimately for a business, this is about having the right talent in your team to help drive your business forward. But also, I think if you're targeting a diverse market, or if you're targeting particularly younger people expect to see diverse organisations now, and are far more selective, I think, in terms of the businesses that they choose to engage with. So, you know, for me, there are real commercial benefits in having a diverse workforce.
I think speaking as a leader, as a woman, you know, that what was really important for me was when I had my children, it was about creating a space and a place to work which could balance all of those different challenges and opportunities of being a mother and being a leader in a business. And I hope that certainly my team and those who work with us reap the benefit of that as well. I hope that we do create a culture where I'm absolutely confident we create a culture where people are listened to and we act on what people say.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, you know, the reason of moving back to get a better work-life balance was one thing, and bringing that work-life balance into the workplace as well. That's really important, and especially having a family and making sure you respect, you know, and also, of course, there are the members of the team who don't have a family, so respecting what their needs are as well. So it's kind of creating that all-round culture. It's extremely important. And the work-life balance thing for me is having gone from, you know, working for a big corporation where at the end of the day, my line was, we only sell pants. You know, it was kind of, we were like, it was kind of, you know, life or death. But in creating that kind of balance between knowing when to stop and listening to when the team have had enough in certain times. Yeah.
Definitely. And kind of going off the work-life balance thing, I think something that maybe leaders or business owners struggle with is that work-life balance. So what do you do to kind of manage your work-life balance?
I think that it's become even more difficult during the pandemic because for us as an organisation, a lot of our work has moved online. So I think for me, what's really important that as a leader or as leaders, we lead by example. Yeah. So I turn my computer off at 5 o'clock and I try really hard not to go back on, try to look after my own well-being. Because in doing that, I would hope that people around me would follow that as an example.
Yeah, exactly the same. When it comes to that time of day, that's it, done. Line in the sand.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Bev?
Yeah, I think by this stage in my career, my work-life balance is really good. It was definitely off kilter through my sort of 20s and 30s, and like everybody else, I guess, working from home has been, for those of us who have worked from home through the pandemic, work-life balance has been really difficult because switching off is hard, isn't it? What we have done as a business is been very clear with people through that time that we do expect people to take their holidays, to take their annual leave, to actually turn their phone off. We do make sure that our managers understand the culture that we're trying to instill, because I would much rather that somebody came in and focused for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, whatever it is they're working, and give their best and delivering that time, and then go and have their time off, rather than have that that sort of burnout, because I'm not sure that works for anybody really. But that said, through the pandemic, we had a role to play in supporting the Welsh economy and getting money out into the hands of business owners, and that was a really intense period where people were working exceptionally long days in recognition that the challenges our customers faced. So I think in what we were able to do then, because we did have a really good business culture and people enjoyed working for us, and we made sure that people did enjoy working for us. People didn't feel aggrieved to put those hours in. People wanted to do it. People felt that they wanted to support their customers. So, I think in deliberately managing the culture of your business, be very clear about the kind of business that you want, how you want people to work for your business. It helps with recruitment because it's part of your employer brand, but it also means that in those periods where you do need a little bit more from people and a bit extra from people, that's not a problem, that people are willing to step up and put their shoulder to the wheel. So, I think there are real, again, I think it's back to the business benefits of doing that.
Yeah.
And also allowing the team to also have their own autonomy. So if they, if certain members of the team don't work conventional hours, that allowing them to switch how they want to, and allowing them to have that flexibility.
Yeah.
So I think the pandemic's been good in that respect.
It has,
so allowing us to change as leaders, to change the culture of the business, to change the workplace, to not to be so static, because we're brought up a certain age, it was 9 to 5, you go to work, and and culture's changed, and to make sure that you change the way that your team manages that as well. And not everybody's the same, not everybody has the same way of working, so, and recognizing that.
So.
I'm really curious, Catherine, how that works in a hospitality business, because there's been a huge shift, hasn't it? And I'm in Cardiff, and I'm seeing a lot of restaurants and cafes now closing at the first part, doing it deliberately so they can give their team a better work-life balance and attract more talent into the industry. So I'm curious as to how that works for you.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a challenge, I've got to say. And a lot of it is to do, like, customers wouldn't notice this, but for example, we close our cafe in Cardigan at 3 o'clock, and we kind of have to do that at the moment because of the team. So, we've got people starting at 6 a.m, we've got people starting at 8 a.m. or 7:30, and we've got people starting at 9, and we can't expect them to work and serve customers until 4 or 5 o'clock, and then the clean down takes about an hour or two, and be there until 7 o'clock at night. So from the outside, it looks like, why are they closing at 3? That is just such a awkward time, but it's all to do with the team, and we're really passionate about trying to change the mindset of people applying for jobs in the hospitality industry. We want to make it more of a career of choice for people, because you can actually have a really fulfilling career within the industry, but it just depends who's looking after you within that industry. And we're really aware of that. And for example, in our second cafe now down in Poppet Sands, that gets so busy, as in hundreds and hundreds of thousands probably of customers a day in the summer. And we've kind of changed the way that we're doing stuff this year, and to make sure that no one is working more than a 7-hour shift down there, because it's so crazy, and they can only kind of fit in maybe 20-minute, half an hour lunch break in there, but then you're constantly on your feet and constantly working. And it's just really important to kind of implement those kind of things to make sure that the staff and that the team are happy, and that that we are genuinely trying to look after them. But it is a really difficult balance, because if someone doesn't turn up to work, then one person is probably going to have to work an extra few hours to get through it. And then if that happens on a continual basis, then that it's really difficult to kind of find the balance. And another thing that I find quite challenging is how accessible you are, like, as a leader these days. Like, you've got your phone, you've got your email, you've got WhatsApp, you've got everything, and people can just I feel like it's really difficult because we use WhatsApp a lot in Crust, and that's where lots of updates go. That's where lots of customer orders go. And then if you're off, but you're obviously in the WhatsApp group, it's just ping, ping, ping all day. So that's another thing that we're trying to think of a solution for that, because, you know, we recognize that that's not fair for any staff that are having their day off or on holiday, and that their phone is still going off in the background because the WhatsApp group is going off with all the customer orders or queries coming in. So that's just a kind of a challenge and something that we're looking at trying to solve somehow this year. We're not 100% sure how we're going to do it, but yeah, it is difficult. But so we do have a live question that's come in. Sorry, this was a few minutes ago and I kind of missed this one. But it said, do you think that mentoring needs to be someone of the same sex and gender?
I was going to say something about this. I don't think it doesn't matter what the gender is. It matters about your shared values and interests. And I would say that, you know, in terms of my mentors, again, it may be a pattern of my life, but it's been quite organic. And I've had people coming to me saying, you know, if you ever need any support, then you know where I am. So that's been quite fortunate. But again, it's the gender. I have several, and there's a diversity in terms of gender.
I think it probably depends on what you're looking to deal with, doesn't it? So, you know, every mentoring arrangement is different. So, you know, I just going back to what I was saying earlier, I would approach any formal arrangement like that, because that's probably what I'm thinking about, rather than our network of people that we call on from time to time, is just be really clear about, and any good mentor will want to set this out at the start of any engagement anyway, just being clear about what the challenges that you're looking to tackle are, and make sure you get the best fit for that. Sometimes that will mean you may work better with somebody, or you may have a preference to work with somebody with a specific gender, but in terms of needs to be a specific gender, then no, I don't think so.
No, it totally depends on what you're looking for individually. I think it's and the individual and the fit, and if that's, it doesn't really matter at all.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So we're now in the Q&A session, so I'm going to have a look. I've got some questions here just to end the session. So the first question is, I'm particularly interested in how women deal with common barriers such as lack of confidence as leaders. Any thoughts on that would be interesting to hear. So I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but if anyone has anything else that they want to contribute to that.
I think that if they haven't already, go and have a look at some. Sorry, my cat has decided that she wants to and go and have a look at the work of Brené Brown. She talks a lot about.
I love Brené Brown.
Yeah, she talks about a lot about that, being able to, as a leader, be vulnerable and be okay with that. I would suggest that would be a good person to go and listen to. She's got a podcast and has also written several books on that subject. But it is that ability to be vulnerable and to believe in yourself. And maybe the first time you might do something like this, it might be really terrifying, but actually keep on, don't give up on yourself, and keep on putting yourself out there, and then that will help develop your confidence.
And push yourself into positions that, I know I've done it myself, put yourself, things that you really don't want to be doing as a leader, but you have to, and you have to learn how to overcome that, and how to, and that's by reaching out to people, and maybe it's within your friends network, you just have it where they don't have an opinion on you as someone in the workplace, it's just talking and reaching out to people for some support. But really pushing yourselves and putting yourselves in positions that make you, sometimes uncomfortable. And then, like Sarah says, once you've done it once, then you just build on it.
Yeah, I've got a good quote for that, and it's actually Brené Brown, and it's choose courage over comfort. It's a good one. Always sticks with me.
I think that one of the big learning points for me in terms of confidence is about preparation. So I can undermine my own confidence sometimes if I don't prepare properly for particular meetings or for particular encounters. So confidence is something that I've really struggled with over my career in different circumstances. And absolutely 100% of the time, if I prepare properly, if there's a meeting I'm going to that I know is going to be challenging or it is going to be difficult, then preparation for that meeting is absolutely key. So knowing what I want to get out of that meeting, what the agenda is, reading the papers thoroughly, having some questions up my sleeve, that preparation to fall back on for me has been really important learning point. Winging it, some people can wing it and it's absolutely fine, isn't it? But I'm definitely somebody who performs better and is more confident when I prepare for particular meetings or particular encounters.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I think we've probably all been in a situation where you haven't prepared for something and it does just knock your confidence, doesn't it, when you kind of come out of it. And I'm definitely not a person that wings it either. I need to kind of have all the prep, everything written down, revised everything. But
yeah,
but
totally
no,
admire people who can wing it. I mean,
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm a winger.
Oh, we we're all jealous.
Very.
But I have to say that from, you know, my colleagues in my leadership team who are not wingers, I've learned a lot from them, and they help me get better. So I probably don't do as much preparation as I could, because I think there's something valuable about being able to recognise the value in all of that, those different skill sets.
Brilliant. So I think we've come to the last question now. So this question is, who are the current women leaders who inspire you?
Oh, for someone, I think whilst in the fashion industry, someone who I always, who always inspired me was Jane Shepherdson. She worked for Topshop. She created Topshop, and she went on to Whistles. She's still in the industry, but she had to work under the whole Arcadia group and the whole Philip Green and the boardroom and everything we all know. And she was a very formidable businesswoman, and she worked under those circumstances and created a huge brand in Topshop. Sadly, no, you know, they're not in the same guise as they are now, but always admired her and how she just was so determined and got where she wanted to go, because there was that and this was way back when that culture was there, especially in that particular organization. But she was someone, and then went on to create Whistles, which was also a fabulous brand, and she just stuck to what she wanted and what she thought and what she knew. So yeah, that's somebody who has always inspired me.
I think that for me, there are my leadership team, the women, Glenda and Sue, who work as part of my leadership team, and then my whole organisation, the women within my organisation who are seeking to be leaders. They inspire me, but also I look at women leaders who are delivering services in really challenging times in the social care sector. So there are many individuals, too many to mention, that, you know, work tirelessly to ensure that, you know, the most vulnerable people in our communities are supported, and that being statutory services and third sector services. You know, every day I'm inspired by what they do.
I think probably the one that comes to mind for me, I've got a real personal interest in the beauty industry, which I've had for years, and it's having a bit of a moment currently, isn't it? Mainly thanks to YouTube. But the person who springs to mind is probably Marcia Kilgore. Many people might not know her name, but she created Bliss Spa, she created Fit Flop, and her latest company is Beauty Pie. Now, and these are all brands that have completely disrupted the industries that they've been in, and she is just one of the most, she's bright, she's engaging, she's got a real clear vision of what she wants to do, and she's created just these absolutely amazing powerhouse brands that have turned whole sectors completely on their head. I think she's very inspiring.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I think that's us at the end of the session now. Yeah, so thank you to Bev, Lisa and Sarah for joining us today and giving their time to discuss some of these topics. And I hope everyone who's been listening has been able to take away some practical advice and has enjoyed the sessions today. And if you're looking for any more information on CMI and what we do, you can visit the website, and we've also got our social media pages, which you can take a look at. And this session will also be streaming on YouTube as well. So if you want to share it with anyone, please feel welcome to. So diolch yn fawr, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's been great chatting.
Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, thank you.
Hwyl, ta-ra.
Hwyl,
Bye.
ta-ra.
Ta-ra.